Olivia Hastings had built her career on one uncompromising rule: never shy away from taking down the powerful. In her early days as a young reporter pounding the pavement in Phoenix, she learned that no one was too mighty to be questioned, and soon her fearless attitude became her trademark. She had carved out a niche as the voice of progressive media, a hard-hitting commentator who relished every opportunity to expose hypocrisy and dismantle the facades of those in power. But nothing had prepared her for the day when one of the very figures she had ruthlessly criticized turned out to be more than just a symbol of corporate excess. A day when her own words would come back to challenge her, forcing her to confront her biases head-on. It was an ordinary midweek evening at the bustling headquarters of her network. The studio was alive with energy as cameras rolled and lights beamed down, capturing every moment for millions of viewers. Olivia sat confidently in her usual chair, her posture a mix of elegance and defiance, her eyes sparkling with the thrill of confrontation. The topic for the night was one that had become almost a cliché in her repertoire: a scathing critique of Elon Musk. For years, Olivia had relentlessly lambasted Musk, painting him as a fraud, a charlatan riding a wave of overhyped promises and public tantrums. With her signature smirk slowly spreading across her face, Olivia leaned forward and addressed the audience. "Honestly, the guy's a fraud," she declared, dismissively waving a hand as if to sweep away any counter-argument. Elon Musk has built an empire on overpromises and Twitter tantrums. His so-called innovations are overhyped, overfunded, and let's be real, mostly failures. A ripple of laughter and approving murmurs swept through the studio. Her co-panelists nodded along, their expressions a mix of amusement and agreement. For Olivia, this was more than a television segment. It was a performance that solidified her image as the fearless critic who didn't mince words when it came to the titans of industry. Yet that night, as the cameras captured her confident delivery and as the clip was uploaded onto her network's website, a silent storm began to brew off-camera. At first, everything seemed routine. A few headlines were picked up by various media outlets, the clip was shared on social media, and the usual echo of controversy followed. But what Olivia didn't anticipate was the ferocity of the counterattack that was about to be launched from one man she had dismissed so casually. Only hours after the segment aired, a single tweet began to shift the narrative. The tweet simply read, "Interesting take, let's go over the facts." Attached were a series of screenshots and documents, financial records, data points, industry accolades, and testimonies that presented a starkly different picture of Musk's legacy. Every claim that Olivia had made, each dismissal of Musk's achievements, was meticulously deconstructed by the evidence. The tweet exploded across social media, drawing the attention not only of Musk's fervent supporters, but also of tech insiders, financial analysts, and even longtime viewers of Olivia's show, who had once trusted her opinions implicitly. What started as a simple challenge soon escalated into an all-out media war. Viewers, who had once eagerly awaited her incisive commentary, began questioning her credibility. "She just made things up. How did this make it on air?" one comment read. Another questioned, "I usually like Olivia, but this is embarrassing. When does she issue a correction?" Yet corrections were not part of Olivia's brand. Known for her unapologetic stance and fierce independence, she had never once retracted her words. Instead, the very next night she offered a curt response. "We report opinions here. Not everyone has to like them." But the seeds of doubt had been sown. The backlash intensified. Sponsors started to voice their concerns, reaching out to the network with warnings about the potential damage to the brand. Ratings, once a solid fortress around her show's reputation, began to dip ever so slightly. Meanwhile, behind closed doors at the network, meetings were convened with a growing sense of urgency. Olivia's career, built on a foundation of public opinion and fierce debate, now teetered on the brink of a transformation she had never imagined. The real turning point came when Elon Musk himself decided he wasn't going to let this challenge go unanswered. Rather than retreating into his world of calculated tweets and guarded media appearances, he issued a public invitation that sent shockwaves through the media landscape. Let's have a real discussion. Your show, your terms, I'll be there. The challenge was unexpected, and for once, the tables had turned. The internet erupted with speculation. Would Olivia accept this unprecedented invitation, or would she, for the first time in her career, choose to back down? For weeks before that fateful broadcast, Olivia's mind was a maelstrom of conflicting thoughts. On the one hand, she had spent years honing her craft by pummeling figures like Musk with relentless criticism. This was her comfort zone, her established way of winning over audiences. On the other, the raw evidence presented by Musk's tweet was impossible to ignore. People were not just criticizing her, they were accusing her of misinforming the public. Neutral observers, tech experts, and even some of her own supporters were now questioning the authenticity of her commentary. The situation was unprecedented, and the pressure mounted with every passing hour. As the debate loomed, Olivia's backstory became the backdrop against which her current dilemma played out. She remembered the early days in Phoenix, when she was a fresh-faced journalist covering city council meetings and exposing local corruption. Her relentless determination to hold public officials accountable had quickly garnered attention. It wasn't long before she was moving from one major city to the next, Phoenix to Seattle, Seattle to Los Angeles, and finally to the corridors of power in Washington, D.C. In every new location, Olivia had carried with her an unwavering commitment to truth and a burning desire to uncover stories that mattered, no matter how unpopular they might be. When she landed her own show, the ratings were astronomical. The audience didn't just crave dry, fact-based reporting. They craved personality, debate, and a host who wasn't afraid to tackle controversial subjects with verve. Olivia quickly discovered that the line between journalism and entertainment was thin, and she walked it like a tightrope artist. The more fiercely she criticized those at the top, the more adoring her audience became. Critics and champions alike admired her tenacity, even if they didn't always agree with her viewpoints. Elon Musk, however, was a different kind of opponent. He was everything that made for a perfect media villain in the eyes of her audience. Rich, eccentric, and notorious for his unpredictable antics on social media. To Olivia, Musk had long symbolized the very problems she despised: unchecked power, corporate irresponsibility, and a disregard for the truth. In her previous segments, she had painted him as nothing more than a glorified salesman, whose greatest achievement was convincing the world of his own genius. She had recounted tales of his failures, the times when Tesla almost collapsed, the rockets that exploded in SpaceX's early days, and his erratic behavior on Twitter. That Wednesday night, as Olivia launched into her well-practiced diatribe about Musk's supposed shortcomings, the energy in the studio was palpable. The discussion began with labor conditions in tech companies, a topic that immediately lent itself to broader criticism of corporate culture and the unchecked ambitions of tech moguls. One of her guests, an economist with a reputation for incisive analysis, had mentioned the rapid growth of Musk's companies, extolling their achievements in revolutionizing transportation and space travel. It was a comment that Olivia quickly shot down. "Oh, please," she said dismissively, leaning back in her chair as if to reclaim the narrative. "Musk is a glorified salesman. His biggest success is convincing people he's a genius." Her voice was confident, almost mocking, and for a moment the studio audience laughed in agreement. The guest attempted to counter her argument by citing SpaceX's accomplishments and Tesla's breakthroughs, but Olivia was in her element. She interrupted him, her tone sharp and impatient. His long list of failures. Tesla nearly collapsed multiple times. SpaceX has blown up more rockets than I can count, and let's not even get started on the chaos at Twitter. He's not some visionary, he's just a guy who had enough money to fail over and over until something worked. In that moment, Olivia was certain she had the audience firmly on her side, their applause and nods reinforcing her belief that she was untouchable. However, as the segment ended and the live show faded into a commercial break, the echoes of that moment would soon reveal a truth that Olivia had been too proud to acknowledge. The narrative was no longer solely under her control. Once the show was over, Olivia returned to a quieter reality in her dressing room. A room filled with personal mementos from a lifetime of battles fought on live television. As she scrolled through the flood of social media comments and texts from colleagues, her heart sank. The online world was ablaze with criticism. Clips of her dismissive remarks had been shared and dissected by tech experts, former Musk critics, and even those who had once been among her most loyal viewers. The tide of opinion was shifting, and it was not in her favor. The next morning, Olivia awoke to a storm of negative headlines. Articles across the internet screamed, "Olivia Hastings misfires on Musk," "Fact-checked in real time," and "Musk hits back at TV host and he's got the receipts." The evidence that had been laid out in Musk's tweet was undeniable, a meticulously documented rebuttal that made Olivia's comments appear reckless at best and dishonest at worst. The credibility she had painstakingly built over years was now under intense scrutiny. Not only were die-hard Musk fans joining the chorus, but even neutral viewers who had once trusted her now questioned the integrity of her commentary. The backlash was not confined to the realm of public opinion. Inside the network's executive offices, a sense of urgency took hold. Meetings were convened behind closed doors as sponsors expressed their growing concerns about the potential damage to the network's reputation. The ratings for Olivia's show, a program that had once dominated its time slot, began to slip ever so slightly. Every alert, every message, every internal memo spelled out one undeniable fact. The controversy was evolving, and it was not a mere momentary setback. Amidst this turmoil, Elon Musk's challenge remained the most unnerving development. It was not just an invitation to debate, it was an invitation to share the same stage, to risk a live confrontation where facts and personal narratives would collide head-on. The idea of facing Musk in his own arena, on her own show, was a prospect that terrified and intrigued Olivia in equal measure. The internet buzzed with speculation. Fans and critics alike were eager to see if she would rise to the challenge or retreat into silence for the first time in her storied career. For Olivia, it was a choice that would not only determine the future of her show, but also the very essence of her identity as a journalist. In the days that followed, Olivia found herself trapped in a spiral of introspection. The challenge from Musk forced her to re-examine everything she had believed about her role in the media. It wasn't merely about ratings or public perception. It was about truth, accountability, and the courage to admit when one's opinions were shaped by bias rather than fact. Memories of her early reporting days mingled with the weight of recent events. She recalled the countless interviews, the long nights spent poring over documents, and the many times she had felt the thrill of uncovering hidden truths. Yet now, she was faced with a stark realization. In her pursuit of being the unyielding critic, she had sometimes let her own agenda cloud her judgment. As the debate with Musk loomed closer, Olivia's internal struggle intensified. She began revisiting old stories, re-examining her previous commentaries, and searching for any hint that she might have misjudged a situation in the heat of live broadcast. Each memory was a reminder of how far she had come, from a determined young reporter in a small town to a celebrated national figure known for her biting commentary. And yet, in that reflection, she began to see cracks in the armor of certainty that she had built around herself. The once invincible persona now seemed vulnerable, as if it were constructed on shifting sands. The tipping point came on the eve of the debate. That night, the air in the studio was charged with an energy that was different from any Olivia had felt before. It was the kind of electric anticipation that signals a turning point, an event that will forever alter the narrative. The studio was packed with extra security and a buzzing audience whose faces were a mix of curiosity and skepticism. Every detail, from the meticulously arranged cameras to the precisely calibrated studio lights, was geared toward capturing an unprecedented live moment. When Elon Musk arrived at the studio mere minutes before airtime, he carried himself with a calm that belied the intensity of the moment. Dressed in a dark blazer and jeans, he exuded an air of effortless confidence, as if the media spectacle was simply another day at the office. Olivia, dressed in her trademark tailored suit, maintained a neutral expression as she greeted him, but inside, a storm of emotions churned. There was anxiety, defiance, and a strange, unexpected respect that was beginning to emerge in the back of her mind. As the show went live, Olivia opened with her customary biting commentary, pressing Musk on his track record, his failed projects, and his notorious escapades on Twitter. The studio audience, usually quick to laugh at her caustic wit, now watched with a palpable tension in the air. Musk, for his part, listened carefully, nodding at times, and then, when it was his turn to speak, he did something that left Olivia and the viewers stunned. Instead of launching into a defense or launching a counterattack, Musk began to calmly explain every criticism that Olivia had made. He started with the setbacks, describing in measured tones how each failure had been a stepping stone to a breakthrough. "I've had my share of missteps," he admitted, "but each one taught us something valuable. For instance, when Tesla nearly collapsed, we learned how to build a more resilient business model. When SpaceX experienced rocket failures, we re-engineered our systems to ensure safety and success." His words were not just a refutation. They were a narrative of persistence and ingenuity, a story of relentless ambition that transcended simple media portrayal. Olivia found herself pushed to the edge as Musk's methodical explanations dismantled her carefully crafted narrative. With every detail he shared, stories of sleepless nights in Tesla factories, anecdotes about the painstaking efforts behind SpaceX's milestones, she realized that she had been viewing him through a lens colored by her own biases. As Musk spoke, he not only countered her criticisms with hard facts and data, but also managed to weave in a human element, one that resonated deeply with the audience. His humor, his candor, and the warmth with which he described his struggles turned the debate into a conversation rather than a battle. For the first time in her career, Olivia felt the unsettling sensation of losing control of the narrative. The audience wasn't just witnessing a debate. They were experiencing a transformation. Laughter broke out at unexpected moments when Musk delivered a well-timed quip or an anecdote that revealed his vulnerabilities. Olivia, known for her sharp retorts and fierce confidence, now found herself grappling with the realization that her long-held assumptions were not as ironclad as she had believed. The live broadcast stretched on, each minute deepening the intensity of the conversation. Olivia pushed back hard, determined to reclaim her familiar role as the unyielding critic. But Musk's steady demeanor, coupled with his detailed counterpoints, meant that no matter how vigorously she argued, the facts stood unchallenged. The discussion morphed into a dialogue, a sharing of perspectives rather than a clash of egos. And as the show drew to a close, it became painfully clear that the debate had shifted the focus away from Olivia's usual triumphant soundbites. Instead, the conversation had centered on Musk's journey, his resilience, and his unapologetic pursuit of innovation. When the cameras finally cut, the studio lights dimmed and the buzz of the audience subsided, leaving Olivia alone with a tumult of thoughts. In the quiet moments that followed, she sank into a chair backstage, her mind racing through every moment of the debate. The numbers on the ratings screen were flashing. Viewership had soared to levels the network hadn't seen in months. On the surface, it appeared to be a win. Yet deep down, Olivia knew the truth. The conversation had not been about her, but about him. Musk had come in with nothing to prove and left having reshaped the narrative, leaving behind an undeniable lesson in humility and media discourse. Over the next few days, the fallout was swift and relentless. The internet exploded with commentary, not just from Musk's supporters, but from longtime fans of Olivia, who had started questioning her previous assertions. "I don't even like Musk, but he made a lot of sense tonight," one comment read. Others chimed in with, "Olivia, you got outplayed. Maybe it's time to reassess what you stand for." The backlash from within her own fan base stung more than any attack from political opponents ever had. Inside the network, the atmosphere was charged with a mixture of shock and uncertainty. Executives who had once lauded her for her fearless approach now sat across from her in a long, tense meeting. The discussion wasn't just about ratings or ad revenue. It was about the integrity of the platform and the responsibility that came with wielding such influence over public opinion. One executive laid out the data in clear terms. Sponsors were nervous, viewership was in flux, and the brand that Olivia had helped build was now under scrutiny. "We have a decision to make," an executive said gravely. "Either address this head-on with a formal correction or let the controversy spiral further out of control." Olivia felt the weight of that decision like never before. She had spent years constructing her identity as an unyielding critic, a persona built on absolute confidence and the refusal to back down. But now, in the glare of public opinion and with the truth laid bare before her, she was forced to confront an uncomfortable reality. She had been wrong. In that moment, the choice was clear. The network's ultimatum was simple. Either deliver a dry corporate statement of correction or take a leap of faith and challenge the narrative once more by facing Musk again, this time on her own terms. Choosing the latter was both an act of defiance and a step toward redemption. Olivia couldn't simply apologize for the sake of damage control. She needed to rebuild her credibility on her own terms. And so, with a determination that came from deep within, she agreed to face the challenge head-on. The announcement was made with a mix of trepidation and resolve. Elon Musk, Olivia Hastings, live, unedited, no pre-screened question. It was an invitation to an unprecedented showdown, one that promised to be a defining moment in both their careers. As the night of the broadcast approached, the atmosphere in the studio shifted dramatically. The set had been transformed for this special edition. Every detail was meticulously arranged to capture the gravity of the moment. Extra security was in place, the studio audience was larger than ever, and the energy was electric. Olivia arrived early, taking a few moments in her dressing room to steel herself for what lay ahead. She reviewed old interviews, recalled moments when she had confidently dismantled her opponents, and wondered if tonight might be the one time when her own convictions would be challenged beyond repair. When the red light finally blinked on, the cameras focused sharply on Olivia's face. The room was silent, every eye fixed on the poised journalist who had, until that moment, been synonymous with unyielding certainty. Olivia took a deep breath and began, her voice steady but laced with a hint of vulnerability that few had ever heard before. "I've been thinking a lot about last night's show," she said, her tone measured and reflective. "I need to speak to you, not just as a host or a commentator, but as someone who realizes that I got something important wrong." For a moment, the silence was almost overwhelming. The words hung in the air, charged with the possibility of transformation. "For years, I've been critical of Elon Musk, often with harsh language and uncompromising opinions. Tonight, I sat across from him, and I learned that sometimes the truth is more complex than a series of sound bites. I've come to understand that behind every headline is a story that deserves a fair and honest conversation." Olivia paused, glancing down at the teleprompter. The carefully vetted statement, crafted by network executives and public relations experts, awaited her. But she knew that reading it would be nothing more than a recitation of damage control. Instead, she chose her own words, a spontaneous confession born of the lessons learned from the debate. "I owe Elon Musk an apology, not for challenging him, but for underestimating him," she continued. "I allowed my own biases to shape my coverage, and in doing so, I misrepresented not only his achievements, but also the spirit of innovation and perseverance that drives progress in our world. I have spent my career tearing down powerful men, and I believed that was enough to serve the truth. Tonight, I realize that sometimes the truth demands that we also tear down our own assumptions." The confession was delivered not as a surrender, but as an honest admission, a declaration that real strength lies in the willingness to change one's mind. The studio was silent, the usual clamor of applause replaced by an intense contemplative hush. For the first time, Olivia had exposed her vulnerability on live television, and in doing so, she reminded everyone watching that even the fiercest critics are capable of growth. In the days that followed, the reaction was a mix of admiration and disapproval. Some hailed her as a brave, transformative figure, a journalist who was unafraid to admit when she was wrong, even when it meant risking everything. Others accused her of selling out, of abandoning the uncompromising stance that had made her a media icon. The internet became a battleground of opinions, with hashtags both supporting and condemning her for the decision to apologize. Yet, amidst the chaos, one thing was undeniable. Olivia Hastings had changed the conversation. Instead of the usual media spectacle of polarized opinions and sensationalist headlines, what emerged was a nuanced discussion about the responsibilities of journalists, the importance of fact-checking, and the courage it takes to admit when you've made a mistake. Elon Musk, ever the enigma, summed up the moment with a simple tweet: "Respect." Those two words, in their brevity, carried the weight of 1,000 opinions. For Olivia, that tweet was both an acknowledgement of the challenge she had faced and a reminder that the world of media was evolving, one where accountability and honesty could redefine what it meant to be influential. In the aftermath of the debate, Olivia's career embarked on an uncertain journey. The network faced a critical decision. Would they continue to back the host who had built her reputation on unyielding criticism, or would they pivot to a new model, one that embraced the messy, evolving truths of journalism in the modern age? Sponsors, always sensitive to shifts in public sentiment, wavered between loyalty and caution. Yet, through it all, Olivia remained resolute. She had experienced the sting of public opinion, and she had learned that true influence was not measured by the ability to always be right, but by the capacity to listen, learn, and adapt. Over the following months, the evolution in Olivia's approach became apparent in her work. Her show, once dominated by one-sided rants and relentless attacks, began to incorporate more in-depth discussions, interviews that explored multiple perspectives, and segments dedicated to self-reflection. In one memorable episode, she revisited past commentaries on various public figures, inviting experts to debate her earlier positions. The shift was not without its critics. There were those who missed the old Olivia, the uncompromising force who had never hesitated to call out what she perceived as wrong. But gradually, a new audience emerged. Viewers who appreciated the complexity of a host willing to admit her fallibility and evolve. In interviews with colleagues and behind-the-scenes footage, Olivia spoke candidly about the journey she had undergone. It wasn't an overnight transformation, she admitted in one sit-down conversation with a fellow journalist. I've spent so many years building this persona of being infallible, of never backing down. But facing someone like Elon Musk, who could dismantle my narrative with facts and genuine stories, forced me to confront my own limitations. I realized that if I truly cared about the truth, I couldn't cling to a narrative just for the sake of controversy. That confession resonated with many. Social media buzzed not just with criticism, but with thoughtful discussions about the nature of media, the importance of self-correction, and the courage required to change one's mind in a world that often rewarded stubbornness. University lecture halls, media panels, and online forums began to cite Olivia Hastings' transformation as a case study in modern journalism. A reminder that the pursuit of truth was an evolving process, one that demanded both bold criticism and honest self-reflection. Even as the debate with Musk receded into the annals of media history, its impact remained indelible. Olivia's journey from a relentless critic to a more balanced and introspective journalist had not only reshaped her career, but had also influenced a broader shift in media discourse. Networks began to encourage more nuanced discussions. Other commentators, once locked in ideological battles, started to embrace the idea that admitting mistakes was not a sign of weakness, but rather an essential part of growth. For Olivia, the real transformation wasn't in the ratings or the headlines. It was in the quiet moments of introspection. In the conversations with colleagues and viewers who had once been skeptical, she learned that the essence of journalism was not in winning debates or scoring points, but in engaging with the truth, however messy it might be. And that truth, as she discovered, was often found in the willingness to admit when you had been wrong. In the months and years that followed, Olivia Hastings continued to evolve. Her show became a forum for robust, respectful discussions, a space where multiple viewpoints could coexist, and where even the most controversial figures could be challenged in a spirit of genuine inquiry. The legacy of that fateful debate with Elon Musk endured as a powerful reminder that influence was not measured solely by the ability to tear others down, but by the capacity to build bridges of understanding, even in the midst of disagreement. Looking back on that turning point, Olivia often recalled the mix of emotions that had surged through her on that unforgettable night. The fear, the anger, the humbling realization that truth was more complicated than she had ever imagined. And while the journey had been fraught with challenges, it had also opened new avenues for growth, both for her as a journalist and for the broader landscape of media. As the years passed, Olivia's evolution inspired many young reporters who looked up to her as a mentor. In countless interviews, she emphasized that the willingness to change one's mind was not a betrayal of one's principles, but a celebration of the very essence of progress. We live in a world where information is constantly evolving, she would say. What's important is not that we always get it right the first time, but that we remain open to learning and improving. Her words resonated with a generation that had grown weary of partisan battles and sensationalist rhetoric, sparking conversations about accountability, integrity, and the true purpose of journalism. In one particularly memorable episode, Olivia invited a panel of experts to revisit some of her most controversial segments from the past decade. The discussion was frank and unfiltered, a candid look at how perspectives had shifted over time. One panelist remarked, Olivia, you built your career on challenging the powerful, but what's remarkable is that you've also challenged yourself, and that's what sets you apart as a true journalist. That evening, as viewers watched from their homes and on social media, a new narrative took shape. A narrative that celebrated the messy, unpredictable journey of truth-seeking over the sterile certainty of unyielding opinions. Today, as Olivia Hastings continues to navigate the ever-changing landscape of media, she remains a symbol of resilience and growth. The debate with Elon Musk is now a chapter in her storied career, a moment of reckoning that forced her to confront her own limitations and emerge stronger, wiser, and more attuned to the complexities of the world she so passionately covers. And while the scars of that night still serve as a reminder of the cost of unchecked certainty, they also stand as a testament to the transformative power of humility and the relentless pursuit of truth. In the end, the story of Olivia Hastings is not just about one journalist's fallibility, but about the enduring quest for honesty in an era defined by controversy and division. It is a story of evolution, a journey from the certainty of black and white narratives to the vibrant, challenging spectrum of truth. And it leaves us with a question that resonates far beyond the confines of a single television show. When was the last time you allowed yourself to change your mind about something important? As the debate's echoes continue to inspire discussions in media circles, academic forums, and everyday conversations, Olivia's legacy remains clear. True integrity is found not in never being wrong, but in the courage to admit it, to learn, and to grow. In a world where the pressure to double down on one's opinions is overwhelming, she stands as a beacon of possibility, a reminder that every challenge, every setback is an opportunity to evolve into something better. And so, as we follow the journey of Olivia Hastings, we are reminded that the most powerful stories are not those of unassailable victories, but those of human frailty, redemption, and the unyielding drive to seek truth, even when it means admitting our own mistakes. Her transformation invites us all to question our assumptions, to listen more deeply, and to embrace the discomfort that comes with true growth. After all, in a world of constant change, the ability to learn from our failures is what ultimately paves the way for progress.